Righty-heighty, this is a piece of Goodletite, also known as ruby rock, and I'm going to start working this up as of today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this saw mark that's already there as my cutting guide. So I'm going to take this piece off the end, this shape here, and that's going to be what I'm going to use to make a Hei Toki. So it's going to be a little bit squat, but this rock is pretty hard to come by, so we tend to make slightly smaller pieces out of it than we would with jade, for example. Now there is a bit of conversation online about how to finish this material, with various people claiming things about whether it will or will not polish. I've made some pieces in the past which have come up with a really nice polish, so I'm going to follow the same process with this. So we'll cut it here and then we'll work it into the shape, and then I'll go through some of how I try to get this rock up into a nice polished condition. So here's the finished piece. This is a Hei Toki pendant, an adze pendant. And you can see that I've managed to get a pretty good polish on this rock, and it's got some really lovely color here once it's been worked. I'll take it out of its little display box here so you can see it in a bit more detail under this light. Here it is just in the hand. So there is some quite a lot of color change that happens. And that's because I think the rock's got it's got kind of a crystal alignment. If I point the camera at this side, you can see it's mostly this sort of greens and turquoisey color. And then as I rotate it around and the light catches the crystalline structure in a different way, you get this much paler, almost white color coming through. So it does have a sort of color change element to it, depending on the direction you look from. These darker bits here, these are all the mineral inclusions. So we've got some very slight pink coming through here. This is the corundum and the ruby. And then the bluer stuff, the darker bluer stuff, is the tourmaline and the sapphire. And then we've got something else happening over here which might be more tourmaline, I'm not quite sure. So it's mainly comprised of ruby, corundum, the sapphire and the tourmaline, which are giving it these sort of included areas. Now there is some cheap non-Goodletite stuff that gets sold as Goodletite, and I think it's a zircon or something, and it ends up with these small sort of pink reddish individual crystals. That is not Goodletite. Goodletite looks like the minerals have been kind of smashed. You can see it's like someone's whacked it with a hammer and kind of splattered it. So that's how you can generally tell that it's Goodletite. This is the back of the piece then, and I've tried to get a pretty flat surface here, and you can see the really high polish that's come through. This has gone all the way up to 30,000 grit diamond paste, and that's how I've been able to get it polished. There are some people who claim that Goodletite will not polish. As you can see here, this is proof that that is not true. It just requires the right tools. It requires a lot of patience and just working your way up and up and up with good diamond tools, and then good polishing pads and good polishing pastes. That's how I've bound it, just through a top. I did not want to put a lashing in, because putting a lashing in would have hidden so much of the stone. So there it is. It's about 7, whoopsie daisy, nearly dropped it. That would have been disastrous. It's about 7 centimeters long from top to bottom. There's the blade section at the bottom, and it's about 3 centimeters wide at the widest. So that will hang on the neck as a pendant like that.